Oh, wisdom. So, you might have heard me tell the story a long time ago that one of the most frequent questions that I get asked, and my partner Gwen now gets asked on the regular, is, what are you going to do with a philosophy degree? As though getting a philosophy degree was fundamentally useless. And my answer is always, you're asking the wrong question. Now, graduating with a degree in philosophy sounds like one thing, but let's look at the etymology of the word, philo-Sophia, which means love of wisdom. Now, wisdom and the logos, the divine creative force, the word through which God brought all things into being, are one and the same. So, let's say that again. Instead of, what are you going to do with a philosophy degree? What are you going to do with a degree that teaches you love of wisdom? Does that change the meaning? It certainly does for me. So, our scriptures, and I love the fact that this week we're hearing from the Apocrypha, which is a set of scriptures that is not the most canonical, but are vitally important to understand the world in which the hopes for a Messiah came. I really appreciate it because wisdom is my jam. Philosophy is something that I love. I love to think. I love to stretch. I love to wrestle with things and wrestle with the unknown. But it's the unknown that got me reprimanded as well back in my Baptist days, because I remember I was working at a youth camp, and the regional director of the youth camp that I was working with came out midsummer and asked, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm all right. I'm struggling with some questions that I had from my philosophy of religion class in my major." He's like, "Wait, what? Why are you majoring in philosophy at a state school? That's only going to mess up your faith." And I said, "I disagree with that, because I think if God's big enough to answer our questions, I'll be just fine." Well, the search for wisdom ultimately landed me here. So the story writes itself. But wisdom is something that is not, I think it's undervalued and underrated. What is wisdom? The love of truth. But let's look at the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Can someone give me a definition for knowledge? Duena? Possession of the facts about something, information, cognizance, comprehension. All right. Is that the same as wisdom? No. What is wisdom? Use of that knowledge. Yes. How to make sense of that knowledge and act well in a situation. So it's no surprise that wisdom is something to be sought. And wisdom is hard. Has anyone ever had to learn a lesson the hard way? Did you get wisdom from it, though? Yeah. So, seeking wisdom, Sophia, the divine female embodiment of wisdom. Yeah, it's no coincidence. Where are you? Right there. Okay, there you are. Like, all y'all, your parents named you very well. When I thought about the etymology of the different names, it's amazing. But Sophia is a divine presence, and she is incarnated in our story in Jesus. So, if Jesus is the wisdom bearer, what does it mean to follow Jesus? Is to follow wisdom, to follow how to live well. And again, what does Jesus say the life is all about with Christianity? Love. How to love God, your neighbor, and yourself. So to seek wisdom is to follow Christ. To follow Christ is to seek the connection that we can have with God and life abundant. Life is easier if you don't seek wisdom in the short term, but if you seek wisdom, the more you do it, the more the unknown of life, the changes of life, the uncertainties of life, the pain of life are far more bearable. And the ability to love those whom you disagree with, those who make you angry, those who you love dearly, is much more feasible and achievable. So wisdom asks us, is what we're doing helping us love God, our neighbor, and ourselves? And in Howard Thurman's book, Jesus and the Disinherited, he talks about our neighbors are not spatial. Neighbors aren't so much the people that live next door or in excuse me, our neighborhood. Our neighbors are everyone. And so when we recognize that no one is fully our enemy because everyone is our neighbor, we are more able to love them in a way that we could not otherwise. So wisdom teaches us how to make sense of the world through the lens of love. So as we continue in this crazy year 2020, in what ways is God continually calling us to seek wisdom, to learn from the things that we learn from our life experiences, learn from one another, so that we are better able to open ourselves to the unknown, the possibilities of God that teach us what love looks like? Is it an easy road? Absolutely not. Is it terrifying at times? Absolutely. The wisdom in my life has been gleaned from times when I was barely able to hold it together. But I got through it, and having people help me with that is what made it possible. So may we continue as a community to be lovers of wisdom, philosophers, and may we also recognize that wisdom is found in God, and God is the source of all wisdom, and that for us, Christ and his teachings and the way that he reminds us to live together is to follow the way of wisdom and ultimately the way of love. So may we extend that wisdom in our lives to everyone around us. May we extend that love to everyone around us. And may we remember that the question wisdom always asks us is, does this help me love my neighbor? Does this help me love myself? Does this help me love God? And if it does, keep it up. If it doesn't, why? Why do we have this desire? And wisdom can help us figure out what it is that this legitimate frustration, this legitimate desire not to love comes from, so that we can better transform that into what God is calling us into. Amen.